was checking out this video on Tupac before he died. Man, you gotta check your boy out.
The cops weren't ready for what they found in Tupac's garage. When investigators finally forced open that locked door in February 1997, 5 months after his murder, they expected to find expensive cars and maybe some recording equipment. What they actually discovered sitting in that sealed garage would completely change how the world understood Tupac Shakur. And more importantly, it revealed plans he'd been hiding from everyone, including the people closest to him.
Hey, Pac, what you had going on, brother?
The walls had soundproofing, heavy-duty shelving covered both sides, and everything was organized with labels and dates like someone running a serious operation. And what sat on that main workbench would blow apart everything people thought they knew about Tupac's final months. The first binder contained movie scripts, but not scripts Tupac was hired to act in. These were films he planned to direct himself. Detailed production schedules, budget breakdowns, casting notes written in his own handwriting, all of it showed he'd been studying the film industry like he was preparing for a completely different career. One script called Thug Angels told a story about gang intervention programs, and attached to it were actual proposals for partnering with real nonprofits and holding community screenings where ticket money would go straight back to youth programs in rough neighborhoods.
You could say about Tupac, he was definitely for his people.
The second binder hit even harder. Page after page of financial records showed where Tupac's money was really going, and it wasn't on jewelry and parties like everyone assumed. Bank statements revealed monthly payments to bail funds for young people locked up on minor charges. Receipts showed he'd covered legal fees for families who couldn't afford lawyers. Wire transfer confirmations proved he donated to literacy programs, mentorship organizations, and community centers all across California, and none of it was public. No press releases, no interviews where he bragged about it, just quiet help for people who needed it. One check for $50,000 went to a Watts literacy program just 3 days before he flew to Las Vegas. But the third binder contained evidence of something that would have completely changed hip-hop history if Tupac had lived long enough to pull it off.
That's one thing for sure. If Tupac would ever live past that fatal day, hip-hop wouldn't be what it is today.
Legal paperwork showed Tupac was building his own record label, totally separate from Death Row. Corporate documents dated August 1996 proved he'd already registered the name Machiavelli Records, filed for trademark protection, started talks with distributors who could move his albums without Suge Knight being involved at all. Business plans laid out how he wanted to sign young artists and mentor them, build a full production house with his own engineers and video directors, and create something that would last beyond just his own music. The evidence was clear. Tupac was planning his exit from Death Row, and he was setting up everything he needed to do it on his own terms.
Now, could you imagine Tupac with his own record label? And that would have been live.
The cops kept digging through the garage, and that's when they found the lockbox. It sat behind the filing cabinets, steel and code locked. And after Afeni Shakur's lawyer gave them the combination, they opened it to find a stack of mini DV tapes. Each tape had a date written on it in marker, ranging from July to early September 1996. When detectives played them back at the police station, they saw Tupac sitting alone, talking directly into a camera like he was keeping video diary. And what he said on those tapes would haunt everyone who watched them, because Tupac knew something bad was coming.
Well, you could have listened to his music and knew he knew something was coming.
The video entry showed a completely different person than the aggressive figure in music videos. Tupac talked about being exhausted, feeling trapped by his own image, and knowing that the life he was living couldn't continue much longer. He discussed wanting to move to Ghana and make films about Black history without Hollywood's filters. He mentioned plans to write a book about political change and activism, something young people could actually use. In one video from September 3rd, just 4 days before he got shot, Tupac said he felt like he was living on borrowed time, not because of the meet with other rappers, but because everything was moving too fast and he was losing control.
Media tried to make him look bad, but we all knew Pac was a special person, man. We just was trying to get him away from Suge.
The car was a black BMW 750IL, the exact same model Tupac had been riding in when he got shot in Las Vegas. But this one was pristine, never driven, and registration documents showed he bought it 3 weeks before his death. or Ghana? Decide by October. Investigators opened the trunk and found 2 large duffel bags packed with items that made their blood run cold. Inside those bags were passports, one real and one that looked fake with a different name on it. $80,000 in cash, vacuum sealed in plastic bags, international phone cards, a handwritten list of contacts in Jamaica, Cuba, and several African countries. More financial documents showed Tupac had been quietly converting his assets to cash and moving money into offshore accounts that death row couldn't touch. Every piece of evidence pointed to the same conclusion: Tupac Shakur was preparing to disappear, and this BMW was supposed to be the getaway car. But what investigators found under the driver's seat would raise questions that still don't have answers, even today.
Know that Tupac had all this plan, make you want to study more the person of who he really was.
A small leather journal contained entries from the week before the shooting. Tupac wrote about feeling watched, convinced someone was tracking his movements and monitoring what he was planning. He mentioned worries about death row's criminal connections and a growing fear that he'd become a liability to dangerous people. The entry from September 5th, 2 days before he died, talked about how he tried to cancel the Las Vegas trip multiple times but felt pressured to go anyway, even though his gut told him to stay away.
I always say follow your first mind. Man, I wish you would have listened.
The final entry was dated the morning of September 7th, 1996, the day he was shot. One sentence written in Tupac's handwriting: "If tonight goes wrong, the BMW knows where to take them. Keys under the seat, package in the trunk. Tell mom I tried." That single line suggested Tupac had arranged for someone else to use that BMW if something happened to him, possibly to get his mother and family out of danger. But whoever that person was never came forward after the shooting, and the car just sat in police evidence storage for years.
That would be nice if that person would come out and tell what Tupac had planned. But they probably know some real stuff, you feel me?
So what does all of this really mean? And why did Tupac feel like he needed an escape plan in the first place? The evidence suggests Tupac was caught between 2 worlds. He'd created this larger-than-life persona that made him famous and kept him relevant. But that same persona was destroying him. The death row lifestyle, the conflicts, the constant pressure to be the hardest and most fearless, it was all becoming too much. He wanted to transform into something different, someone who made films and helped communities and built lasting institutions, but he didn't know how to make that shift without losing everything.
Just walk away, man, or be confident. I always remember what God told Jonathan before he took over the promised land, man. Be confident. And in the Quran it said that the word is big enough. You have power. Just walk away.
When investigators closed their report on the garage contents, they noted that Tupac Shakur's death wasn't just the loss of a talented artist. It was the destruction of a carefully planned transformation that could have changed hip-hop completely. All those binders and tapes in that secret BMW, they weren't just possessions. They were evidence of a future that never happened, a second act that got erased on a Las Vegas street 5 months before anyone even knew he was planning it.
Well, that note says somebody knew. Man, we need to find out, man, who knew this plan.
The garage kept Tupac's secret safe until it was too late to matter. And now, looking back at everything the cops found in there, you have to wonder what hip-hop would look like today if Tupac had made it to October, if he'd executed that exit plan, if he'd driven that BMW to the airport and disappeared to Ghana like he'd written about. The world lost more than just a rapper that night in 1996. It lost all the possibilities that were packed into those duffel bags and written in those binders, locked away in a garage nobody was supposed to see.
And before I end this video, I want to thank the Black Boat YT for that very informative video. Man, I really wish Tupac would have made it clear, man. Could have been a totally different world. Man, that was a real live video. Y'all tell me what y'all think and hit your boy up.
We're not a racist organization because we understand that